Today's guest on the show is Team Mihaly, who is a bodybuilding athlete, coach, and entrepreneur. Justin's company, Team Mihaly, specializes in functional nutrition and coaching competitive bodybuilding athletes, while his other company, the Elite Coaching Academy, specializes in helping online coaches develop better systems and get better results with their clients. And in today's episode with Justin, we go through his entire journey through his bodybuilding athletic career, as well as developing his business in the industry, and really start to uncover some of the powerful lessons he's learned through the many struggles he's faced and the pushback and scrutiny he's received from people for being a little too raw and unfiltered for some people's taste. You can follow him on Instagram at @jmihaly_, or you can check out his podcast, the Grow or Die podcast, which I was recently a guest on, and we will link in the description of this episode. All right, without any further ado, let's get into this interview with the one and only Team Mihaly. Well, dude, it's crazy because, we already said this. I think we were messaging about it too. I've heard your name for so long, and we have mutual friends that have suggested we connect. And I think, dude, actually, I looked back because I went to email you, and you got a Choose Hard hat coming in the mail.
I love it. Let's go. I can't wait.
Yeah, and I saw an email thread from like 2020. Of us talking about podcasting, and then we just didn't finish the conversation.
No way.
I don't know who didn't finish it. We were just talking about trying to find a time because we were both busy, and then it just,
shit.
Yeah. And I'm
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
5 years later.
5 years later. So I'm happy to finally connect, man. We hit it off last week when we did a podcast for your show, and I'm excited to have you on, man. Before I get into some of the things I've listed that I know we're going to just crush from a topic perspective, tell the listeners who you are and what you do in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's funny you asked that. I had a mentorship call earlier today where I was ripping into a couple mentees about when someone asks you who you are, don't get into what you do. Tell them who you are. So Who I am, I'm a high energy dude. I love life. I wake up every single day so optimistic. I wasn't always like that. Definitely been through my fair share of struggles. The favorite thing that I am is I'm an uncle to my niece and my nephew, and I'm a boyfriend to my lovely girlfriend, and I'm a brother, and I'm a son. But who I am for the people who cared for my value that hopefully I'll add today. I'm an 11-time IFBB champion coach. I'm a 21-time pro card winning coach. I've won 2 bodybuilding shows myself. I've become an absolute whiz in functional health, holistic health. I wake up every day to destroy westernized medicine. I love arguing with doctors online who are indoctrinated by a horrendous system. I love when they don't accept my podcast invitations where I ask to fly them out and they can sit in this chair right here and we'll have a healthy debate. I will not be mean. I will not be angry. We can have a healthy debate. I am someone that just loves, Cody, you want to know a fun fact about me? I argue with myself in ChatGPT. Let me tell you about this. We talked about AI and on my show.
Yeah.
I will put my belief system in a rigorous course. I have a whole prompt, a rigorous argument on ChatGPT. And I will make sure and the original prompt says, we will not stop this argument until I have nothing further to say. So basically until ChatGPT wins. I love proving myself wrong or hopefully finding the truth. I'm a passionate dude. And I think that's how I would best describe myself. If you can't get a hint of that energy, I'm high energy.
I love it, dude. I actually aired today a podcast on identity and personal standards. And I talk about something that you said. So I love that you said this. And it's like your role is different than your identity, And so a lot of people are like, oh, who are you? Oh, I'm a coach. I'm this, I'm that. And then, but nobody talks about their traits, what they're proud of, who they, how they act, how they show up, what their standards are. I specifically asked you, what do you do? So obviously I prompted that part, but I love that you did that, man. Cause I think people who recognize that it's important. And something you said actually is connected to what I wrote. The first thing I wrote, I went to your Instagrams to kind of just do some browsing first of like, all right, let me figure out what I want to dive into. And I saw on the Grow or Die podcast Instagram, come open-minded, leave well-equipped. Love that. You mentioned being optimistic. You mentioned arguing with yourself and an AI. Those are all things that are about being open-minded. And there's a lot of people who are very closed-minded. I think it's one of the things that stops growth, for so many individuals. They're so closed-minded that they cannot learn and grow. So I love that line, and I love that you've already said optimistic and open-minded, and you want to debate in these things like multiple times. What you said you weren't always that way. What made that change? What made you become this way?
Yeah, actually, I reflected on this when I was filling out the questionnaire for your show. You prompted an amazing question that I'm going to steal from you. You said, what's a little known fact about you that no one knows? Man, I used to be real lazy. I used to have a bad victim mentality. I'm from a blue-collar town, and that's a lot of blue-collar towns think everything and everyone is a little bit against you. It often feels like in Springfield, Ohio, like certain policies from the government are against you, or these people in Beverly Hills, like they cheated their way to get there, or it must be nice to be born with a golden spoon or a silver spoon or whatever that thing is.
I hate them. Must be nice.
Must be nice, right?
I hate that.
Then the whole must be a nice thing, must be nice to be this, must be nice to be that. I created this as you created yourself, and no one's self-made. That doesn't quite exist, but from the conversation I took from you, I feel like I really align with you in that we did a lot of this ourselves. We did a lot of this with this great support staff, great support system before staff. And I was lazy, man. I was just waiting for something to fall into my lap. And I was an in-person trainer. I was in Cincinnati. And, one thing led to another one day at the gym with this dude who was mouthing off. He shoved my girlfriend. I ended up doing whatever I did and got an assault charge from that. And that was the turning point in my life. And this dude, he was from a very affluent place in Ohio. And his dad was an elected government official in that place. Mm-hmm. So I kind of got disbanded from being around there. It was the whole situation. And I was like, dude, you know what? I'm not going down a path I love. I got no money. I got no skill set. I got no value to the world that I'm adding. Cody, as men, we're supposed to add value. We're supposed to bring something. We're supposed to provide and protect our families and the people that we care about. And we're supposed to add value to the people who we can reach. And I was always a leader in sports, and then sports were gone, and I was just an empty, soulless, passionless, visionless individual. That assault charge definitely changed things. I mean, I had no money, and I got a 60-day lifted jail sentence that if you get in trouble over the next 2 years, you're going to jail for 60 days. And I'm like, homie, you need to fix this. Moved to Columbus. Didn't get accepted for any apartments. And no one feel bad for me because this gave me good things now. But I was living out the back of the Toyota Camry that my mom gave me because I had no money. And I mean, dude, I was a loser, point blank. I was a loser. Take it into your hands, man. You're a man. Build this shit. Build out of this situation that you're in. And I had all these grudges. I had all these enemies. I wasn't a good dude. So I took it upon myself, and that's kind of where Grow or Die came from. I mean, there's definitely lower you can be than living out of the back of your Toyota Camry. It was only for 3 or 4 weeks. But, dude, I'm not going to lie. I just started balling out. I just started reading. And when people start opening books and they start closing Instagram and start closing X, or Twitter back then, I was all over Twitter. Man, I had tons of followers on Twitter and I had no money. Right? That's when it changed my life, man. And it's now it's podcasts are huge, right? You listen to podcasts more than you listen to music. If you read books more than you mindlessly scroll, and I say mindlessly because part of you and I's job is being up to date on what's going on and what trends are in social media. Right. Dude, you're probably going to end up all right if you do that time over time over time. And then Grow or Die mindset formed from that. some good success formed from that. And, I still carry that in my day-to-day life. I live in a beautiful place in downtown Austin, Texas, but I remember Springfield, Ohio. I remember Grandview, which is a suburb of Columbus, Ohio. I remember the apartment complex that let me post up in my Toyota Camry. And then I ended up signing a lease at that apartment complex, $728 a month. Could hardly ever pay it. I was always a little bit late. But you don't ever let those, I will never let those things go away from me. I kind of still, while I live in abundance, I remind myself of the scarcity that I used to be in. I hope that I never lose that.
Yeah. Dude, it's crazy because, like, I think that, and you won't, especially, like, we talked about kids recently. Like, I reflect on it more now again because I have a daughter, so I can explain those lessons to her. And it's so, dude, like, there's what she was complaining about the backyard one time. We have a half-acre lot. We got a big yard.
You got a big yard.
And so I just explained to her, I was like, hey, like, Dad didn't have a yard for most of his life. Mm-hmm. What? I'm like, I live in an apartment. What's that? And I had to explain to her. Yep. And dude, mind blown. No backyard? What? But it's like, I get it now. Like, all these, like, I didn't think about it very much, but now I reflect on it all the time. So you will continue to, man. And I think when you're a content creator, you also get to shed that to the audience so they can grow. But it's interesting to me, dude, there's so many parallels. It's wild. I actually, like, my life-changing moment that set me on a course was because a dude hit a girl in the face and I was the one that stepped forward, except the difference was his homie was waiting for me. So I got jumped real bad.
No way.
So it was a near-death experience for me that, like, really shifted, got me out of a bad environment, everything. But it's so crazy. So as soon as you said that, I'm like, bro, this is wild. So many parallels with us.
And one note, like, on my show, it's like 55, 60% men. I don't know what your show is, but, like, men, speaking directly to men, fighting's the dumbest thing you can do. I mean, that is the lowest form of identity you can do nowadays. Back hundreds and hundreds of years ago, you probably had to.
Yeah.
But, man, you never know what other people got. You never know when someone's going to pull something out that you can't combat.
Yeah.
Like, in my case, I'm lucky. In your case, you're lucky. But, like, men are supposed to be above that. We need to have emotional control.
Oh, 100%. Dude, I could not agree more. But I think that and this is what's interesting to me about your situation, is that it's literally it's one thought that changes the course of your future, because your perspective was to take ownership. You basically said, I'm a piece of shit. I'm going to change this. Yeah. And you started changing it versus, there's this case study on twins who had an alcoholic father, identical twins. One became an alcoholic. The other one became sober and very successful. And they asked both of them, why are you sober? Why are you an alcoholic? And they both said, because of my father. But it's just amazing. A different perspective. Was there anything, because I got to imagine up until that point, you didn't have that perspective. So it's kind of out of character for you to take ownership and just go on this path of reading and personal development and becoming who you are. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle. Was there an influence? Was there a thought? Was there anything that happened that made you or just the breaking point was too much?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. The first ever man I really looked up to, like, dude, I love my father. Our relationship's great now. It wasn't then. I love my grandfathers who have both moved on. But Jordan Duggar was really, like, the first dude I ever got to, like, look up to and admire. And then from that, I met, Ben Hartman. And I think through Jordan, I met Sam Miller. And, there was all these men around the time I was like 24, 25, which was after this Toyota Camry stint, that I became immersed in. And, I had somebody to look up to and look after. But when I was in that moment, love my father, love my grandfathers, I don't want to be anything like them. I don't want to be anything like them. Not because they're bad people, not because they're losers. They're great. They made a lot of mistakes. Their whole life is something I don't want to emulate. Well, I love these people. How can I show them the best that I love them? By taking this last name and making something happen with it. By changing our family's outcomes. Like, everyone in my family, every person in my family has struggled greatly with finances. My sister and I changed that. And, I'm hoping by the end of this year I get to pay mom and dad's, they're divorced. So, like, mom's mortgage and dad's mortgage. Like, big goal for this year is like, I want to pay those off to give back to y'all, show you guys how much I love you, but also show appreciation. Like, man, I don't know. But as I go through life, I realize being a parent's got to be challenging. And being a parent with financial stress, I can't even imagine. It makes me emotional to think about. Well, I don't want my woman to deal with that. I don't want my kids to deal with that. So at some point, you got to start adding value to the world. And, they were my initial motivation of, all right, I want to be nothing like them. And then I was able to step into a place where, well, you know what? You're doing all this reading. You're doing all this kind of self-improvement work. That starts attracting, and you're kind of at a different vibrational level at that point. And you start attracting more opportunity. And you walk through those doors of opportunity, and there's more opportunity. And you just keep walking through those doors and putting yourself in a situation where you're around people who make you a little bit uncomfortable because the standard they hold you to, because of maybe how great they are, whatever the case may be. And, I'm 31 now. I was about 21, 22 then, and I'm still doing that. I got people in my friend group, in my best friend group, that made me real uncomfortable. And I love that. And I think that it's powerful for a man in my position. I think it's powerful to have that. There's alcohol problems. Every single man in my family has alcohol problems. Every single one. And, you look, again, I live in downtown Austin. There's a lot of homeless men down here. We all had the same chance. I say that from a privileged place. There is trickle down generational homelessness happening. I'm not sure the chance they have. And that's a whole other topic that I'm not well versed in. But we get to control our dopamine. We get to control what makes us high. And what makes me high is learning, building, having conversations with men like you, and networking with men who make me feel uncomfortable. And, it's easier to be a piece of shit dude than it is to be a great man. And I'm trying to be a great man.
Oh, dude, that's so good, man. I've said so many similar things, and again, just a testament to how much alignment there is. And I think it's just such a good point to surround yourself with those kind of people. It really is, because I've done the same thing over the years, and that's what helped me so much. And even the last name thing, man, I remember hearing a guy talk about what his last name meant because his dad set the standard, and his dad's dad, and it was like these great men over time, all this stuff. And I remember it pissed me off. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, look at you, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, what does McBroom even mean? Nobody, there's nothing to, and then it shifted from that victim's mentality to, I don't want my daughter in the future to not think our name means something, So I love that you had that same attitude. It's a problem nowadays, the victim mentality and just wanting handouts on stuff. Choose hard is obviously grow or die, same thing. It's the opposite of that. But you keep talking about adding value, and I love it because I took this from one of your captions on a video that you were talking about just coaching in general. Absolutely love this. A market only looks saturated when you aren't standing out. Become one of one. Living within authenticity, alignment, and abundance, there is no competition. Become elite. Everything else takes care of itself. Love that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just rant on that for me, because I think that there's so many people who are looking for hacks or a business coach or funnel or program or mentorship, whatever it is, and they use that excuse. Oh, it's really saturated. Everything is saturated. Mm-hmm. It's 2025. Every single industry, everybody's doing everything. There's nowhere you can go that's not saturated. And they get afraid of it. But this idea of becoming elite, I feel like so many people, I don't know if they're putting themselves in this category of that's not possible for them or whatever, but you're sitting here talking about living out of your car and being a piece of shit, and now you are one of the elite. So it's the perfect person to ask this. Why is this something that you talk about? Why is it important for people to stand out, to become elite, to go all in and go really far with things like that?
If you're not in a market that's saturated, then you're not in a market that's going to have much impact. And if you can't have much impact, you probably can't make much income. If you're in a saturated market, good. Welcome. We've been trying to stand out in this for so long. And all you have to do to stand out is you have to be very, very authentic. I mean, I'll share unpopular opinions all day. I recorded a content piece the other day, and I think the first line was how hormonal birth control is the greatest psyop ever formed against female health. And, people will feel a type of way about that. I shared on my story, I had my podcast YouTube channel pulled down. It was almost $30,000 in monthly revenue. And one day I woke up and it was gone because I simply shared that, hey, this was after the CDC had posted online that COVID was likely man-made. The new CIA director releases that it was man-made. And that got $30,000 a month pulled from my monthly revenue. That's a ton of money.
Yeah.
And it's more than the money is, dude, I grinded so hard to make that happen. I earned those sponsorships. And one day we didn't get a warning. We got nothing. It was gone. So if you live with authenticity, you also have to constantly check yourself. There's a standard I have to live up to that I put out into the world. And that's raising the benchmark all the time. Because elite doesn't stay here. This might be elite right now, but in another year, while everyone else is getting better, elite's now going to be up here. Mm-hmm. So if you tail off, if you get a little lazy, they're going to catch up to you. If you're in a saturated market and you're focusing on how much competition there is, you're living in so much scarcity. And if you talk like that, I can probably put together what the rest of your life looks like. Whereas you could be viewing this as, okay, here's what everyone else is doing. Analyze who you believe is your competition. What are they not doing? Well, they're probably not putting extremely controversial views out online. They're probably not speaking out against the things that they hate or speaking for the things that they love. And each one of us has unique viewpoints that might piss a lot of people off. You and I were very aligned in our two shows. At some point, when you keep breaking down belief systems, there's probably something we don't agree with. Mm-hmm. And the power of two men such as you and I is we'd be able to have a whole discussion about that and come to a common ground of alignment, right? So if you don't put in the work to truly stand out, like the hormonal birth control thing was back in 2017. That was a huge one. The cholesterol thing's been one of my tiffs with West Science Medicine forever. The autoimmune issues, how, well, they can't be healed. You have this forever. No, you don't. I mean, this can easily be fixed. Get to the root of the issue. You find these things through enhancing your skill set through means that other people aren't doing. Example, people be like, well, you're not a doctor. Thank God I'm not a doctor. If I was a doctor, I would have gone through the indoctrination through school and the education system that they went through, where a majority of them are just salesmen for pharmaceuticals. And there's some amazing doctors in my network. So then I say that and people think I'm anti-doctor. No, two of the people I hang out with all the time are very, very esteemed doctors and professionals, and we have amazing conversation all the time. I took it upon myself. Physiology was something that always made a lot of sense to me. I was an athlete. I went to school to be a strength and conditioning coach. I got some opportunities in the S&C route, and I was like, this is not for me. It's just, I respect those people a lot because it is a grind to get to the top. So I had all this physiology knowledge, but I was lacking some biology knowledge. And then you just dive into the biology. Why is everything happening based off of the evolution of our human body from where it was to where it is right now? And you mash it up with physiology and you start seeing a lot of things aligning that are way different than what we get told. So I made my skill set one of one. Yeah, I can prep people and turn people pro and win pro shows and go to the Olympia and do the whole thing and peak to perfection or whatever the case may be. Then you can also fix any autoimmune issue that comes your way, because you have to be able to get to the root of the issue, which is always going to be a gut health impairment, liver health impairment. You're going to have pancreatic and gallbladder interplay. You're going to have signaling issues going on in your body. It all stems to the mitochondria. So let's fix it. And you start practicing this in people and you start seeing these results. And it's like, well, I've been on statins for 12 years, or I've been on T4 only therapy for 8 years. I've been doing this or doing that. Or I thought I was infertile and we were paying $20,000 for this fertility clinic. It's like, dude, fix the mitochondria. You fix the mitochondria, and I would say downstream is kind of an upstream from there. Everything else fixes. So I became elite. And then you see the revenue changes in the company, which used to be Team Mihaly, now it's Together More Fit. And it's like, oh man, we're elite. Not many online fitness coaches or coaching companies are doing these numbers. And so I know you wanted to touch on this, but this kind of drives into Elite Coaching Academy. I've been mentoring people for 5 years, and then over time, it just gets this point where, okay, all these people want to hire a business coach but have no skill set. So you're elite at talking to leads in the DMs, but you're not elite in delivering something that actually impacts and changes their life. So you make all these promises, and then it's empty on the other end. So why can't we connect these two and bridge a gap? And I kind of looked at myself as, well, all these people running mentorships, none of them have this skill set. None of them have the resume as a coach or an educator that I have. But then they also haven't built a company that does the revenue we do. So let's pull it all in together. I've got my CMO making modules for ECA, so you understand all of the marketing that we do. We have a full CRM rundown on how we run everyone through the first DM or the follow all the way to how we service them 2 years down the road. I have my sales team in there conducting actual real sales strategy for these people to take and use. I have my lawyer in there covering contracts, covering how to keep yourself in a legal white space or legal space so that you won't get in trouble talking about things, so that you won't get chargebacks when people can't follow through on what they signed up for, and your company doesn't have to suffer from that. We have 211 modules right now, 156 are skill set, and then 55 of them are the biz dev. And then, I mean, when you work your way through ECA and you get to 100% completion, that's when you can work one-on-one with me and my team to actually do things in your company if you want us to. And so the skill set in ECA is the first thing that comes because no one else is touching it in terms of the whole package. Other people are teaching skill set. And there's some amazing people I've learned skill set from, like Don Kuza, like Austin Stout, Jason Theobald. But on the other end of this, you're going to get all of this business acumen handed to you as well. And so there was just a natural evolution that took course. And around last April, my CMO and I realized, like, dude, we have something here. And also, Cody, I mean, my schedule was unlivable because of, everything's one-to-one, everything's just calls all the time. And so I want to work with online fitness coaches who truly want to be elite, who don't just want to get tons and tons and tons and tons of leads, because you know what being elite gets you? An endless amount of leads. The funnel is forever. The DM conversations right now, there's hundreds going on, and people want to work with elite people, and there's not many. So if you're in a saturated industry, get to the top of the industry, and then you have to strip a little bit of humility. There's kind of a toggling of arrogance and confidence you have to go back and forth on. But you have to let everyone know with the testimonials, with the results, and then with sharing your mind in a very authentic and aligned manner. You gotta let people know just how abundant you are and how abundant your skill set is to be able to share that to other people. And we've seen amazing success with it. It's definitely become my new passion. But if you find yourself listening to this and you're in a saturated industry, congratulations. This is right where you should be, in my opinion.
Such a good point. Like, if it's not saturated, what are you doing trying to get? I mean, unless you're inventing something for the first time, which you're probably
wouldn't
not.
recommend.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just because, to that point, Cody, it's like people look at Elon Musk as like this guy who invented these electric cars. Like, electric cars have been played around with for a very, 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 very long time. He nailed the marketing for it. Mm-hmm. And he made it so that his company could actually churn rev based off of, what he did was say the battery was this big and it was too heavy and it wasn't practical and the car price was way too high. So that's why EVs never came to market. Well, he made the battery this big and he made it fit in a compartment that's that big. And he was able to get rid of all the crap that was weighing down or driving costs up too high. And that's where Tesla was formed. And, he wasn't the first. No. But he was the best.
What's crazy, too, is that two things about that is that he had a strong purpose, and that's what allowed, because he bought that electric car company that was tanking and took it over and made it what it is. And his passion was fueling the world on electricity. It wasn't cars. He saw the opportunity to take that. He's like, I'm going to make these cars way faster and actually look cool, because that's going to allow me to grow and then fund the solar panels and the world changing things that I want to do and build a rocket ship and shit like that. Like, his story is crazy. But another thing he said, and I'm not going to say this to like scare people away from being entrepreneurs, but it's hilarious, kind of true. And I think if you can just like smile at this statement, then whatever your thing is, like being elite in your thing, I feel like it's not necessarily a choice. It's like, inside you can't not, like, you have to do this. Like, no matter what, I'm going to have to, like, to build this. I can't quit. It's not an option. I can't explain it. It's not because, I feel like it. No, like, you literally can't. But his quote was, being an entrepreneur is kind of like sitting on a beach looking at a beautiful sunset while chewing on glass until you can taste nothing but blood, but you just keep chewing anyway. I'm like, so bro, true. That's kind of psychotic.
Holy cow.
But pretty, beautiful sunset, but you're sitting there in the ground. And you mentioned like your schedule being crazy. And part of me is like, you have to, I always tell young entrepreneurs when they're asking questions, I'm like, just be willing to eat dirt for a bit. Mm-hmm. You got to. Like, you have to go through that phase.
Be willing to fail a lot. A lot. Like, and be told no a lot. And feel insufficient and undervalued and question yourself and just somehow not give up. Mm-hmm. I think for myself, there was just no other option. Like, all right, so I have this exercise physiology degree and I don't want to be a strength coach. All right, so you can be a gym teacher and make $30,000 a year and teach kids all day. Or you got to take the entrepreneur route and you got to become elite and you got to stand out. That's a great point.
100%, dude. You obviously the greater portion of, ECA and everything is skill set. I'm going to use this as an example. I've taught my team sales. It's not like we've completely ignored it. But people have asked me that many times, like, what do you do for sales training with your team stuff? Mm-hmm. I've never hired anybody for sales training. They're just really, really good. Mm-hmm. So, like, the sale is way easier because before they even get on the call, they know who we are. They know how great we are. And they already know, like, and trust us because of all the content and stuff. And I feel like how much you emphasize value on the front end and also the skill set, I got to imagine you agree with that. Not to say let's never pay attention to sales, because there needs to be strategy there. But would you agree that a lot of these people dive into sales and marketing first, where it should be the opposite? Like, that should come after the skill?
That was the genesis of ECA. All right, so you can market, you can sell, but you have to get on a call and actually sell somebody. By the time you're on the phone, my sales team, you know that you want to work with either Together More Fitness if you want fitness coaching, or you want me as your mentor in ECA. And, at that point, really the only drawback is where's the investment? And that's why I have a sales agency handle everything. Is I'm not trained in sales. I'm not trained in going back and forth. I'm not trained in the tactics to be able to get somebody in at a point of cost that works for them, that's also profitable for the company. So that's why I brought one on. And I mean, probably the MVP of the sales agency is the setters who DM everyone. Just start conversation. You have to connect with people. So if I'm delivering trust, value, and building trust on the front end, and then we open up conversation and we start connecting with you, and then in our CRM, all of these people's notes that we're having conversations with are in there. And then through this, I'm able to identify which coach or which ECA option is going to best suit them. So then when we get on, like, example, Cody, if I have a 22-year-old dude hopping on a sales call with my people, there's levels of ECA or access that we're not going to even pitch to them, because we don't want to set you up in a bad financial position. If you're 22 and you just want to learn things and you have no clients yet, then we have got to have an offer for them to be able to get what they want that also works at a point for us, but doesn't cripple anybody. And it's the same with, you got a 25-year-old girl who's been on birth control and SSRIs for 13 years. There's a very strong chance that she's not making a ton of money, not because she's not skilled, but because of the downstream effects these things have on your life that are very likely holding this person back. I mean, there is research out there about thyroid health and your outcomes as a earner or as an entrepreneur and how much money you earn. And we know that SSRIs and hormonal birth control really negate your thyroid health. So it's like we have these things so toggled down to where like everyone can come get help from us. But if I'm, hopping on a call with somebody that's already got a $50,000 a month coaching business, then all right, they're going to need more access to me.
Right. Because
there's things that the ECA staff is not going to have answers to that only I'll have answers to. So I think the marketing and sales is so, gosh, I don't want to say overblown because it's the lifeline of every single company, but the personal brand that you build establishes trust. And then with that trust, you need to connect. And then when you have trust and connection, then you don't really need like this super robust or scammy sales process. You just have to be able to deliver. And you alluded to this before we started the show. All these people hire these business mentors and they still have no skill set. People will not give you and I a chance to impact them in their health if they've had a crappy experience with another online coach who promised all these things. And so now it ruins it for us. And I want to do away with that. So I'm hoping that's what the Elite Coaching Academy does.
Well, I've seen you do this and I've done this plenty of times too. I don't even know what you would call it. I've always called it anti-marketing. And what I mean by that is like, I'm going to talk about the worst because it's going to show you that we're the best. But like mainly just, I want to point out like this that you've experienced is not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like, don't expect that from the people who are the best. Here's what to look for, And there's, building trust. There's two things that I have on the list to ask you that I think relate to that. One kind of comes back to what we were talking about earlier with being transparent and authentic with your content, which is going to cause some people to love you, some people to hate you, which is better than everybody just being lukewarm in the middle, obviously. But a lot of people are afraid to do that. My question for you on that is kind of more of I guess it's like philosophy or just the psychology behind why people get so pissed and so triggered. And do you think, because saying this is going to make people be like, too like hardcore bro, but like they don't want to do the work. So they hate when people say, because you don't need those drugs, those prescriptions, you don't need these things, or you can just do X, Y, Z, get to the root cause. It's going to entail work and time and patience and investment. And people are so afraid to do that. And I don't want people to get pissed. I mean, I really don't care, but I don't want people to get pissed that I say that. But it's interesting that if you say it on a podcast or on an Instagram post, you get all this hate. But when I say that to somebody who would probably still hate on it one-on-one on a conversation and they can see that I'm saying it from a place of respect and empathy, all of a sudden they're like, I don't want to admit that I don't want to hear this, but it's true. Like, I don't want to hear it. And I know you're right. And I got to figure this out. Like, it's so odd to me that people can blow up the way they do. Like, do you think it's as simple as that? Like, people just don't want to do the work, or is there something else that I'm not seeing?
I think when we attack anyone's confirmation bias, I mean, people, what is it, the white coat theory or whatever, like people have this trust that's instilled because we get told so many times that like this doctor, this person has our best interests in mind. And then, someone like me, someone like yourself comes out and speaks against it. And I know you're just like me. I'm not just going to say it. I'm going to educate on the why behind it. Whereas they were never educated on the why from the person in the white coat who told them to do the thing. It just starts attacking confirmation bias. I think confirmation bias is a trickle down of negativity bias. As humans, to evolve to this point in our life, we had to have negativity bias. But we can drop that now. We have the power and the safety and security in today's world to disarm that. A saber-toothed tiger is not jumping out of the bushes to attack and kill you. It's not there, but we had to have that negativity bias for hundreds and thousands of years of evolution to get to where we're at now. So if you have a real strong negativity bias that, well, everything's going to be okay, and this person's going to lead me the right way. And hey, even though I feel like crap and I'm taking all these medications as a 25-year-old person, male or female, it's okay. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Oh, and all my friends do it too. Because, if you're on certain medications, you're probably going to attract another group of people who are also on these certain things, and everyone thinks it's okay and fine and dandy and whatever. So we come out against it. It attacks their confirmation bias. They feel this emotional, visceral response. But Cody, the reality is, if they were secure in their beliefs, they wouldn't be pissed off right now. I've been post content for 11 years. I've had thousands and thousands and thousands of people come at me and say these mean things and say what they would do to me when they saw me in person. And I'm very public. I'm at all the expos, I'm at all the events, I'm at all the speaking engagements, I'm all around Austin. And guess how many people have said something to my face in those 11 years? Zero. Not a single person.
Yeah.
It's not real. They're just triggered because you're planting the seed that is going to sprout later on to realize, oh, what I was told was wrong. Now I need to do something about it. So when someone comes at me triggered, I just meet them where they are. Like, hey, what did I say that you don't believe in? Or what did I say that goes against your beliefs? Silence.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking, if I say that 100 times, there might be one response. You plant the seed. That's our job, is to plant the seed. It's not our job to get everyone to sign up with us. It's not our job for everyone to agree with us. It's our job to plant the seed.
When I'd have, people listen, I'd have you consider that. I did a podcast on the science behind seeking discomfort. And so pulling up all these studies, they all link to the fact that when you seek discomfort as like a metric of progression, so I'm going to start, I'm going to set this goal and I'm going to start working towards it. And you actually intentionally try to get uncomfortable in the path, you're more likely to be successful. I don't think, most of us, you and I, we're not going to be like, oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that. Of course we would. But one of the studies that was really interesting was that they forced people to have, with opposing views, to have political discussions. And they basically can correlate the people who are willing to have those discussions openly are more likely to be successful. And it shows, there's a scientific term, it's not just being open-minded, there's a word for it, but it shows they have more of that, and that leads to more success. And they use that as the thing of like, we're going to test these people's ability to be open-minded and therefore more likely to succeed by letting them have political discussions with people they disagree with. And the people who could do it calmly are the ones that end up winning. So like anytime I see somebody who gets triggered like that, to me, I'm like, I feel bad for you because I know you're not going to win.
Imagine the perspective of someone triggered. That's why I say I got to try and meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
Imagine the perspective and the worldview of that person. Imagine how they're handling their finances, how they're handling their relationships, how they show up to work. Imagine what their feeds look like on social media. If you don't have a perspective that's open and that's vast, your odds of success in this life, whatever success may look like to you, however you define that, your odds of achieving that, it has to be close to zero. It can't be much higher.
Yeah, 100%. Now, the second thing with regards to building trust and content stuff is, I've mentioned this to you before, it's very rare to see somebody who, and you obviously do both, but it's very rare. Honestly, that's very rare to see too, now that I think about it. Most business coaches, they don't post content that actually educates people on health, hormones, training, nutrition, fat loss, muscle growth, things that you are constantly doing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times what I see is that people build their coaching business to a point where it gets hard, and then they show people who are brand new how to get their first 5 to 10K or something. Mm-hmm. And that's what the business coaching industry is actually saturated with, which is not real competition. It's bullshit. But you obviously, you do both. So you didn't just say, oh, this is getting hard, I'm going to help people now. You saw a need and people were asking, so you fulfilled that need. But also you still post a lot of content about health and training and nutrition. Why? Is this because you just want to build trust? That's one of your main things. What do you tell people who are trying to learn from you what to do with their content in that regard?
Dude, I love building value. I love putting value out there. And there's things I feel really passionate about. So let's take the cholesterol thing, for example. Dr. Allo completely refuses to come on the podcast. We've got a whole bunch of bot followers, which is probably why he refused, one of the reasons. But this guy wrote the book on cholesterol, and that's his thing. And he just demonizes LDL all the time. Well, I saw my grandfather have 3 strokes. The third one killed him and took him out at 70 years old. And he was on statins for 14 years. And when I started getting well versed in what's going on inside the human body, I asked my grandma, you have any lab reports, final lab reports that grandpa had done? She did. He had a 39 LDL. Why is LDL bad? Because it gets thrown around in our arteries and our vascular system to repair the damage that was caused by metabolic dysfunction. Well, that's LDL doing its job. That's LDL protecting you and saving your life. Because these little small, dense lipoproteins shoot around through our vascular system. They can pierce and they can injure our veins and our arteries. And well, enough of that over time is going to quite literally puncture this artery or this vein. So your liver makes more cholesterol, and then LDL, which is not cholesterol, it's lipoprotein, and Dr. Allo has that terribly wrong too. It carries cholesterol around to these places of injury, and it simply just acts as a sealant. Well, it does compile over time, and it can cause restriction of an artery or restriction of our vascular system, wherever this may be, which can lead to issue. And it can lead to calcium rising and solidifying these veins and arteries so they're not flexible anymore. They all need to be flexible. Our whole vascular system has to be flexible. And if there's enough calcium that gets in here, which supplementing with vitamin K2, obviously can exacerbate or can eradicate. If there's calcium in here, it becomes firm. That comes after the LDL was thrown in there to patch this up and repair the issue. So what they're saying they want to happen, them being doctors, is, well, if we just don't want LDL to go in there. All right, so if you're in the middle of an ocean and your boat has a leak in it, you're just not going to repair it. What's going to happen? You're going to sink. That is the exact same thing happening here. The exact same thing's happening. So how about we fix the actual issue, which is metabolic dysfunction, because we have a high amount of small, dense lipoproteins shooting around our body, which that is, as our triglycerides go higher, these go higher. Well, how about we just fix the triglyceride issue? And if we fix the triglyceride issue, which is a metabolic issue, you're not going to have this problem. So it's those little things are what drove me to simply kind of go opposite, really doctors as a whole. But I can't let myself have this knowledge and understanding and not just share it all the time with people. And I mean, the amount of DMs that I get from people who have had this happen, or they showed their dad my content and he took it to their doctor and the doctor was stumped, and now my dad's off. He left the doctor and he's off of statins and X, Y, Z, all this stuff. And what else do statins do? They deplete CoQ10 from mitochondria. So we already talked about mitochondrial function, how important it is. And also, not to mention, you want to lower cholesterol. Well, let's see, your brain's 25% cholesterol, so you're going to lower cholesterol. Now you're much more likely to have Alzheimer's, dementia, any neurodegenerative disease. So that's going to suck. All of your sex hormones are made from cholesterol, so have fun dropping your cholesterol and having tanked sex hormones. Every cell in your body is made up of cholesterol. So now we can't create new cells, or now we can't repair damaged cells. So now what happens? Now you're just living to die at that point. And yeah, the statins are that serious. And so that's one example of I have to share this. Yeah, I can post 2 reels a day, drive CTAs to ECA. And yeah, I want everyone to sign up for ECA. Absolutely I do. But the moral behind my content, Cody, isn't really sales. Moral behind my content is I hope to help people. Mm-hmm. And, I hope trickle down at some point it turns into a sale. But I've always just made content based off of value and education. And whenever I've been wrong, another note about the trust, I've been wrong a lot. And I've made content talking about why I was wrong. And I think like that's kind of my one metric of humility that I still have left.
Like, I don't think there's anybody who is at the top of any industry that doesn't just try really hard to create value. Like, they all, like, that's always going to be a key in their success, is trying to create value. Most of the time when you talk to these kind of people, it's with everybody that they come in contact with. You know, like, one of my core values as a man is to make sure every conversation, situation, experience I enter, I need to be able to provide value and make it better. You know, make this situation positive in some way, shape, or form. If me entering this conversation or situation actually makes it worse for anybody, I'm not going to involve myself. I want to be a positive light. I want to create value. That's it. You know, and living that way always, in my opinion, leads to more sustainable growth and success anyway, because it's not any one thing that triggers a bunch of leads or a bunch of sales or anything. It's literally, and this is why even people who go like crazy viral off of one post get a ton of followers, their business doesn't grow. You know what I mean? Their business doesn't grow because those people most likely found them for some random video they created that went viral, and it's not a representation of what they do consistently. If they're lucky, it happened to be and it just randomly went viral, you know. But somebody who shows up every day and creates value, like, man, that's gonna build success that really lasts a long time.
I feel like it's got a personal brand too. Like,
yeah,
you want to have personal brand. You don't just want to have leads and sales for right now. Like, I mean, there's people that follow you as well, I'm sure too. That's like, yeah, I've been following you for 7 years, and like now's the time. Like, 7 years is what it took, but that's personal brand. And when people, that goes back to the authenticity and to being willing to piss some people off. When people know what you stand for and you continually reinforce that over a 7-year time period, and you evolve over a 7-year time period to become even more elite, then, I mean, that's really impressive to people. There's a lot of people who have that equity with me that don't agree with everything I say. I don't want you to agree with everything I say. I want you to learn from a lot of really smart people. I want you to question everything, including myself, so that we can all become greater. Like, a high tide rises all ships.
Yeah.
Well, if you're just like a docile, good little boy, then you're probably not going to raise the tide, and you're probably just going to shake your head yes and do whatever you get told to do. And, you know, it's kind of the low T society that unfortunately we live in now.
Yep. Dude, being liked is far different than being respected or being trusted. You know, you can be liked and trusted and respected, but there's a lot of people who probably trust both of us because they know we stand by the standards we set and we're not going to bullshit anybody, and they respect us for that, but that doesn't mean they always like us. You know, and you really got to think about that as a human, and especially if you're trying to be successful. Dude, one of the things I love about talking with you is that there's so many like paths I can take the conversation, and you can hang and we can talk about these. You know what I mean? Like, it's really, really dope to be able to dive into the science.
Was that you and I that talked on my podcast? I can't remember if that was you and I's show. It was one at the end of last week about you can really tell someone's expertise when they get in a podcast.
Oh yeah. Yep. I think that was, yeah. And it's true. And like the fact that we can go down this path of hormones, you know, the molecular side of the human body, and then talk about content and marketing and business and being a man and stuff. I love it, dude. So what I want to do is, you know, to kind of wrap this conversation up, is ask you really just 2 questions. It's the same question, but 2 different areas, just give you a chance to answer it twice, really. And that's what choosing hard has taught you, but specifically first about bodybuilding and then about business. You know, so as a bodybuilder, what can you say in that journey has choosing hard taught you?
That's a great question. So my first bodybuilding show was back in 2015, and I got last place. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to feel like that again. I was a really good athlete all through middle school, high school. Like, we were winning every championship you could win. We were winning the championships. And then I went to college. I was terrible. I ran track D1 at University of Cincinnati, and I don't know if I ever finished higher than 4th or 5th in a meet. I was not good. And so I felt valueless. I was contributing nothing to my team. Well, then you start bodybuilding. I was valueless again because I was last place. And I started working my way up, learning more and more, surrounding myself with bodybuilders who were better than me in the Cincinnati, than the Columbus area. And I realized, oh, like, I'm kind of taking the easy way out here by leaning on the Stairmaster. Or, well, you know what? I did stop at the gas station and get some Skittles when I was 6 weeks out. Or I didn't keep a promise to myself to have cardio done by 6 a.m. Or I didn't keep the promise to myself that I wouldn't date anybody during this competition prep. So as a bodybuilder, I then worked my way up to winning the Mr. Ohio in 2019, the Kuklo Classic in 2022 or 21.
I know Steve.
Yeah, Steve's a great guy.
Yeah.
Winning his show was a big deal to me. And then I finished runner-up in my last show, which is something that definitely still haunts me. Like, that was my all-time best. I lost to a really good champion who, he's become a great bodybuilder himself since then. But the Mr. Texas competition is no joke, and I definitely thought that I had that one bagged. And when I look at the difference between the Kuklo prep and the Mr. Texas prep, and the Mr. Texas prep, professionally, I'd made it. And so I took my foot off the gas a little bit. Well, I love bodybuilding. It's spectacular. It's fantastic. But I was trying to turn this company into a $10 million a year company. Doing that alongside bodybuilding, very unlikely. Bodybuilding takes so much. So choose hard to me meant, what do you want more? Do you want the company that sets your family, your future family up for success, that retires mom and dad, that makes your last name proud? Or do you want this vain title that only means something to your ego and only means silencing the haters? No one cares. Which you want more? I love both these things. So choose hard I chose to go all in on business. And what I've seen that do to the staff, I've got 19 people that work alongside me within my companies. It's empowered them tremendously. And that was the right choice. So I gave up my one dream to go after another dream. And every single day there's an opportunity. How fast can you put out problems, and then how well can you implement a system to make sure that problem gets either solved on auto next time or that it doesn't happen again, so that you can keep building new levels within the companies. That is entrepreneurship. And bodybuilding takes away from that. But that also gives a lot of people opportunity to thrive within my company. So within bodybuilding, the choosing hard was, don't get the skills 6 weeks out. Stay true to not dating during the prep. Make sure to get your cardio done by this time. Make sure to nail the recovery modalities even when you don't want to. Make sure not to miss an injection when you really don't want to hit one. Make sure to keep your stress low and do the things that you know you need to do to have your physique the all-time best on show day. As it comes to business, man, sometimes there's that email you don't want to open up, or there's that Slack message you don't want to open up. There's a meeting you don't want to take. And when you feel that resistance, that's what makes you know that it's very important. And the time that you, as the business owner, the time that you can lean in to the stuff that makes you feel like, I really don't want to do this, because you understand you don't want to do it because it is important and it is uncomfortable. That's what dictates more business success and more opportunity coming your way. So choose hard as an entrepreneur is doing the stuff I really don't want to do and sacrificing some of my well-being in order to handle this one problem, put out this fire, build a system so that we can keep leveling up. So that's what choose hard means to me and how it performs in my day-to-day life.
Bro, I wish that mic wasn't on a stand so you could drop it. That was
mic drop.
That was so good, dude. I love that. I couldn't agree more. I think it's really cool that you said that about your team too, because I think that I've seen the same thing happen for me, and it's something where a lot of CEOs and founders, I think, slip. But when you put the team in the company that they are pushing for above other aspects of your life, like, that's when they have more loyalty and go all in with you. You know, it really pays off. So that's really cool, man. Dude, where can everybody find you? Instagram, YouTube, podcast, all that kind of stuff, so I can put it all in the description and send everybody to go check your stuff out.
Yeah, shoot me a follow, JMihaly _ on Instagram, or just look up Justin Mihaly. There's only 2 of us in the world. I've actually talked to him many times. It's funny. Sometimes we'll just like stay in contact a bit. The YouTube, we just launched a new YouTube. We finally got cleared to do it. Grow or Die is gone forever. So now it's Elite Coaching Academy, and we're posting some pretty cool stuff over there. So I'm really excited about that. Those are our two main platforms. I do some good stuff on X, but X is kind of just my LOL place to have some fun. And man, absolutely love being in convo with you. I hope everyone comes and checks out the Grow or Die show that we did. That's just Grow or Die podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And yeah, great convo. And we should definitely do this again soon. I hope that we have more podcast collabs, maybe speaking engagement collabs. It's been a lot of fun doing these in back-to-back weeks. Really, Friday and Monday.
Yeah.
So back-to-back work days we got to do this. That was fun.
Yeah, super cool, man. I'm going to put all that in the description. If you guys like this podcast, I know you'll like his. Definitely go check out the episode I did with them as well. We'll try to sync these up so they air around the same time for you guys. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. If you enjoyed this, share it with a friend who needs to hear this message as well. We'll catch you guys next time.
Peace.